What happened to Sri Lanka?
The healthcare system of a country is the cornerstone of its people's well-being. Medicines are essential to ensuring the health and safety of the population.
What happened to Sri Lanka?
What has happened to our healthcare system? There was a time when scandals were reported to have taken place in the process of medicine purchases for desperate patients suffering from severe illnesses. The most recent example of this is the notorious human immunoglobulin and rituximab procurements.
What happened to Sri Lanka?
Rituximab is a drug that can increase a cancer patient's survival rate by 15%. But a stock of this drug imported to Sri Lanka while it was in the midst of a severe economic crisis was exposed in courts containing water or another substance. The human immunoglobulin procurement deal also faced a similar outcome. By the time this fraud was uncovered, 2,985 vials of 3,985 human immunoglobulin vials had already been administered to patients across major hospitals in the country. Despite identifying those responsible for this scandal, the fate of the patients who received the fake medicine remains unknown. The questionable stock of rituximab drugs were distributed to hospitals in Ampara, Hambantota, Kurunagala, Peradeniya and Nuwara, as well as the Lady Ridgeway Hospital for Children. Consignments of both these counterfeit medicines were supplied to Sri Lanka's healthcare system by an entity named Isolase Biotech, which had operated without proper authorization.
What happened to Sri Lanka?
How was this scandal staged without an iota of consideration for the well-being of patients? In 2022, the Sri Lankan government announced it would default on servicing its external debt, virtually signaling that country was on the precipice of bankruptcy. Subsequently, reports surfaced of a severe nationwide drug shortage, and it was attributed to the dearth of dollar reserves, inability to open letters of credit, and lack of suppliers. In spite of assertions made by responsible authorities of a drug shortage at the time, it has now been revealed that the shortage was not as severe as portrayed. On the 30th of May 2022, a proposal was submitted to the Cabinet seeking approval to continue the COVID-19 Emergency Procurement Committee to purchase medicines and medical equipment urgently. The Cabinet approved this proposal without hesitation, and it was decided to procure medicines under the Indian credit line since Sri Lanka was facing a dollar crisis. It was then that a senior level directive was issued to formulate an emergency procurement plan to obtain medicines through the Indian credit line and to place fresh orders for medicines required for 3 months, disregarding existing orders.
What happened to Sri Lanka?
Furthermore, a background to import medicines without the necessary registration of the National Medicines Regulatory Authority or the NMRA, citing urgent needs, was also created. Thereafter, the Ministry of Health took steps to procure 285 types of essential and life-saving medicines under the Indian credit line on the 27th of September 2022. This was how necessary plans were made to call for proposals from private suppliers to procure human immunoglobulin. Based on the information revealed thus far, purchasing pharmaceuticals through the emergency procurement process is illegal. Additionally, emergency procurement of a certain drug can only be made if existing stocks are insufficient to meet a month's worth of demand, and an evaluation of the national stock of a certain pharmaceutical must be conducted. But, worryingly, only the numbers available at the Medical Supplies Division had been accounted for in this instance. The substandard stocks of rituximab had been purchased, while an existing stock of rituximab sufficient for around 3 months were already available. The scandal did not end there. On the 25th of October 2022, another cabinet paper was submitted requesting approval to purchase 317 types of medicines, citing shortages. Interestingly, certain types of pharmaceuticals included in the latest list had also been included in the previous list. Although expressions of interest were called to procure medicine through the Indian credit line, the payment for these purchases had in fact not been made through the credit line. It had not transpired that way, since the purchasing of pharmaceuticals through the Indian credit line would involve a process with rigorous observations. A payment in excess of 144 million rupees had been paid to the entity Isolase Biotech for the substandard pharmaceuticals, which were essentially filled with water. These funds had been released from an account maintained by the Medical Supplies Division. Initially, payments of 50 million rupees each were made via 2 checks, and thereafter senior officials had informed for the remaining payment to be prioritized. The owner of Isolase Biotech had secured the funds well before information came to light of the pharmaceuticals' substandard nature. By the time the matter was taken up in court, the company's account only contained a mere 17,000 rupees. These details were exposed during the criminal investigation and now lies before the judiciary with evidence. The people are now aware of those who were implicated in this scandal, arrested and remanded, and those who fell ill while in remand custody. The general public only want one thing, that is, for justice to be meted out for those responsible for these transgressions.
What happened to Sri Lanka?
Do you recall the prednisolone eye drops imported from India, which caused irreversible damage to the eyesight of over 20 patients? It was confirmed that this drug contained the microbug Burkholderia cepacia. Use of this drug resulted in many patients facing total blindness. What were the outcomes on probes conducted on this? How were those patients remedied? Sri Lanka's Supreme Court issued a symbolic ruling that the country's worst financial crisis was caused as a result of economic mismanagement. In a country where a majority of its people experience severe strife, there is another group of cronies who did not think twice to earn a quick buck by supplying substandard stocks of life-saving pharmaceuticals. Shouldn't these individuals be held accountable for their crimes before they are allowed to represent the people again? Sri Lanka eagerly awaits justice to be served.
What happened to Sri Lanka?